Good morning and welcome to the first Green Park Global Talent Conference. I'm Raj Tulsiani, the Chief Executive Officer of Green Park, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all today. As an organisation who's known for thinking differently in attracting, retaining and improving talent, and helping support sustainable cultural change and delivering diversity, equity and inclusion beyond the point of recruitment, we're always looking for ways to innovate and add value to you, our network. This conference has been designed to share learnings and provide practical advice, some new insights and access to genuinely expert thinking with all of you. So why are we doing this now in our 17th year? Over that time, we've supported thousands of organisations and tens of thousands of individuals, all looking to be or do something different, to push boundaries, to increase inclusivity as an engine for productivity or innovation, and as leaders to make a positive change. Through this conference and with your help, we want to accelerate that change. We constantly assess the impact of our efforts to move and improve diversity and explore emerging best practice. What we see across various markets is diversity of thought creating competitive advantage and courageous leadership teams who are willing to do something different to get more diverse results. With the macro environment changing around us at such an exceptionally fast rate, diversity, equity, inclusion, culture, and people agendas can often get deprioritized. But we believe this is exactly the time when you should be prioritizing it. The conference is aimed at those who have responsibility for talent, people, DEI, sustainability, and for other senior leaders who are the standard bearers or custodians of their organisation. We're all in good company. There's attendees joining us from a range of roles, responsibilities, size of organisations and nationalities, cutting across multiple sectors and locations. Over the next 2 days, we have 11 sessions across 4 tracks. The first 2 themes that we've explored today are, firstly, why are we failing in intersectional diversity? And secondly, why should business engage with social value and social mobility? Tomorrow, we'll explore whether leadership is the key to unlocking the diversity dividend. And finally, is AI empowering underrepresented voices or silencing them? All these sessions include panel discussions, insight sharing, and expert sessions. The panels are designed to share diversity of thoughts, practical advice, and lived experience. The opening panel will consider intersectional diversity, specifically if we are currently failing in our intentions, and it will explore whether gender diversity could be revisited as a catalyst for broader intersectional improvements. The second panel will consider the role of social value and social mobility and how it can add value to business, why it should be on the board and leadership agenda, and the risk of doing nothing, and how that risk might be mitigated with some examples of how to approach that. Tomorrow, the third session will include 2 panels, one on exploring the role of faith and its potential to unlock ethical leadership, and the second considers the role that leaders have in creating a purpose-driven workplace and how that will reduce attrition. The final 2 panels tomorrow cover 2 very topical areas indeed. Firstly, how leaders can navigate AI and talent to benefit candidates, colleagues, and shareholders. And secondly, whether AI has the potential to empower underrepresented voices, or if the way it's going at the moment, it's more likely to silence them. Our speaker sessions are focused on sharing insights on behalf of multiple organisations and campaigns. We'll be looking at how gender progress can drive intersection improvements across the C-suite and board level, with a representative from Chief. We'll be looking at how the business performance, employee productivity and diversity intersect, with a view from the inclusion initiative at the London School of Economics. Why social mobility should be something boards and leadership teams care about from our partners at Progress Together. What organisations are doing well, where are the pain points, and what needs to get measured to improve social mobility from the Social Mobility Commission. And we have a case study from HSBC looking at their immersive DEI leadership programme. As we have an excellent lineup of expert speakers to share their insight, I'll just name a few for speaking in today's session. Mark Lomas, the Head of Culture of Lloyds of London. Denise Wilson, the Chief Executive of the FTSE Women Leaders Review. Catherine Gansalo, the Diversity and Inclusion Director at the London Stock Exchange. David Thomas, my co-founder at Race Equality Matters, and Dr. Grace Lorden, the Director of the Inclusion Initiative at the LSE. There are going to be many more, and we're hoping it's going to be both an informative and inspiring day. Before I hand over to our next speaker to kick off the first track of the day, a few housekeeping points. There will be a Q&A feature enabled during each session, and we encourage you to engage with questions and dialogue. Due to time constraints, some of the shorter sessions will ask the speakers to provide a response post-conference and then share their responses. There will also be a short 5-minute comfort break between each session, time allowing. And we're recording today. Playback and transcripts will be available after the conference. I will now hand over to the Chairman of the Green Park Board, Sir Trevor Phillips.
Hello, welcome to Green Park's Global Talent Conference. You will be hearing over the next couple of days from some outstanding speakers from the Social Mobility Commission, from the London Stock Exchange, from Meta, from the London School of Economics. Everybody who is involved in the talent business knows how important our people are to all of our organizations. Indeed, increasingly, we know they couldn't be more important. There's an upside to what is going on today, which is that as globalization proceeds, we can bring people from all parts of the world, all kinds of backgrounds, to bear on the problems that we face as businesses, as public organizations, as not-for-profit organizations. But of course, the downside is that we always have to be asking ourselves, are we really ready for difference? Are we really prepared to accommodate the kinds of people who will be adding to our offer, who are increasing the effectiveness and efficiency and appeal of our organizations? Or are we constantly trying to make different people who bring their qualities to our organizations into the people that we grew up with whom we worked, in whom we have always believed? I think the truth is that we all now know that we need to bring the people to our organizations, and our organizations need to change to give them the opportunity to do the best they can, to bring themselves to our workplaces, to energize us, and to bring their different qualities. And we sometimes forget that actually diversity and inclusion don't involve doing a favor to those who have historically been underrepresented. We need to remember, I think, that those people who have never found their way into our organizations, particularly its upper echelons, are bringing something fresh, something new, who are innovating, and they are the people who are going to be the change makers of the future in our organizations. I had recently cause to reflect on this, having taken on a new role in the business that I worked in for many, many years, that is in the media. And I now sit in a new seat doing political interviews on Sunday morning. When we were thinking about how we should construct the programs, I had a look back at the history of such programs. They're important because in my country, in Britain, it is what we would call the seat of authority. The person who interviews the Prime Minister and cabinet ministers and important business leaders is thought to be somebody who has weight and gravitas within the society. It is not a surprise then that somehow, accidentally, the people who have been doing that job on all of our major channels over the last 40 years have been a very small number. And what is more, not only has it been a small number, probably about 14 or 15 individuals, until very recently, every single one of those individuals has been male, highly educated, middle class, and white. Only when one commercial channel brought in a woman by the name of Sophie Ridge to occupy that seat of authority was the pattern broken. And most people here will tell you that actually she brought something new to the job. And it wasn't therefore a surprise that other major channels have appointed a woman and now subsequently a person of color to sit in that seat of authority, because they've learned that different kinds of people bring new things to the role. We're all having to get used to this very different world. Most organizations are having to rethink their culture. They have to rethink their assumptions. They have to rethink their norms. Is what we do now, is the way we do things around here right for all of these new people who are going to enhance our organizations? But we're also having to look to the future. We know that there are major changes coming. Artificial intelligence, about which everybody is talking these days, is going to transform some industries. So, for example, we know that in the retail industry, which I used to work in for some time, that cashiers will soon become a thing of the past. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to be unemployed, but it does mean that people are going to do different jobs. But more importantly, for people who are working with talent, having to find new ways of employing talent, we need to think that these changes aren't going to affect everybody in the same way. In retail, we will see women disproportionately affected. In transport and logistics, we will see men disproportionately affected. And the question we need to ask ourselves for all of our organizations is, what do we do about that differential demographic change? How do we manage it? How do we make the transition one that works for everybody, even though it will disproportionately affect small, particular groups of people? There is, of course, a much wider debate going on about diversity and inclusion and whether it works or not. I think there's no question that many of us who've been working in this area for a long time will look back and say, we have made things very different. When I started work, fewer than a third of roles in the workforce were filled by women. Now, 2/3 of women are in the workforce. We know that that means that in reality, the way we do things is not going to be good enough, or the way that we have done things in the past is not going to be good enough for the future, for all those young women who are coming into the workplace. Something similar will be true for people from different cultural backgrounds to the historical cultural backgrounds that have dominated in our workplaces. Everybody who is at this conference is more than a theorist. You are all having to deal with the practical outcomes of these changes. We like to think at Green Park that there is a difference between what I call Sunday morning thinking, which is diversity and inclusion and change, are things we need to think about because they're morally good for you. That is undoubtedly true, but it's not enough, because on Monday morning, you are going to have to do something about it. On Sunday, you get the lesson that says, this is how you become a better person. But on Monday morning, you have to pick up the phone, you have to go to a meeting, you have to work with a team, and you have to make decisions about, should we go this way or should we go that way? Should this person be given a responsibility or should they not? Should we offer training to this group of individuals more than that group of individuals. All of these are real, hard, difficult decisions for leaders within any organizations and at every level. You have the job of trying to negotiate the differences between the groups within your organization. You have the task of making sure that everybody has a voice, and that not only do they have a voice, but that they are listened to. And in the end, you have the task of making sure that the decisions, the hard decisions, the ones not between good and bad, but the decisions between bad and worse, are ones that people at the very least understand. In our company at Green Park, we're very cognizant that we need to have all the voices in our room. So we, for example, have a very specific rule that where big decisions are made, and we define that, decisions that affect more than 1% of turnover, so major hirings, for example, those decisions should never be made by a room of people who are all the same, whether they might be the same sex, or they might be the same race, or they might have the same social background. We also know that increasingly we in the diversity and inclusion and the talent field are beginning to understand that the signals of difference and diversity aren't just what you look like, aren't just your sex, but they are to do with your background. So social mobility is increasingly an issue on our agenda, and we hope it will be one on yours. So over the next couple of days, I hope that you engage in this conference with others who are facing the same challenges, that you share your information, that you share your experiences, that you're open about your difficulties, and that also you bring to the table your successes, because there will have been many, and that you share them with everybody, because in the end, we will all benefit from that better, more diverse, more vibrant, more effective workforce. That, in the end, is what this conference is about, what we hope to engender amongst those who work with us, who partner with us into the future.
Thank you, Trevor. Really interesting, I mean, how the markets are responding to some of these challenges, particularly around wanting to use diversity, equity, inclusion in their own self-interest. I suppose there's three schools of thought at the moment, aren't there? There's people who are doing the minimum and seeing it as a distraction from commercial activity or providing better services to frontline users. There's some who are cutting and pasting to try and show that they're doing something, but copying it from elsewhere. And then there's a few that are really using this as a sustainable source of competitive advantage, either in attraction, retention, inclusion of talent, or driving innovation, or creating inclusive cultures that are unlocking productivity. So I think that's very interesting, and hopefully something that will come up as a theme over the next couple of days. Trevor also talks about action, not words, rethinking norms and the way we do things now, which is often based on our own affinity bias or historical context of leadership, and with changing demographics, global markets, and leaders often needing to be more agile and pivoting more regularly because of macroeconomic conditions. Now, how we transform our workforce and the world of work is a challenge for all of us, but it's the principal purpose that this firm was created for. And what I loved the most, before we move on, was this idea of Sunday morning thinking. And I suppose that comes largely from when the program is, but also this idea that you've got to get on and do something on Monday. And what we've seen is that even many of the organizations where there is a genuine will in leadership or in pockets of the organization to use this for more than window dressing, there still is a lack of critical skills in order to do that. So I'm hoping that you enjoy the conference, that you get access to some thinking that's really making a difference. This will be an annual event, and we look forward to hearing your feedback from the close of the conference tomorrow. I'm now going to hand over to Joe Heath, our managing partner at Green Park's Diversity, Inclusion, Culture and Ethics practice, who will take us through the first theme of the conference, this critical question: are we failing in intersectional diversity? Thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the conference.